So I want to lead a simple version of the Tonglen practice. Tonglen is a Tibetan word, means giving and taking. And the taking is taking in the difficult, and giving is giving peace. Yeah? Which is opposite to what the narrative self wants to do. The narrative self wants to take the good and get rid of the bad. Yeah? So it's kind of reversing the instinct of the narrative self. And there's many ways to do this, and I can share other possibilities after the meditation. So this is just one way, one example. And one thing is as a beginning of this practice is to connect with what you could give. Yeah? And my suggestion here in this meditation is to find a symbol for you of peace. So it's one way to connect with aspects of ourselves is through symbols. Of course, we want to have, or we are using a symbol to come into a non-symbolic experience. But the symbols can be a way for us to go beyond the symbol into the non-symbolic direct experience of peace. So a possibility here is, I suggest to imagine the symbol of peace in your heart. Not in the physical heart, but like in your emotional heart, in your what is called the heart chakra. And possible symbols of peace could be a lotus, it could be a rainbow, it could be maybe the peace pigeon, yeah. It could be Jesus, the Dalai Lama. It could be the sense of peace. Yeah? So maybe you can allow this unconscious, the symbolic part of your being to just come up with a symbol of peace. A symbol of Buddha nature, of Christ consciousness. And then I will invite you to connect with something in your life which is challenging, which is not in peace, something unresolved. And this could be a conflict at work, so it doesn't need to be a big thing. It could be something you are directly involved, like in a relationship, but it could be also just another person, like another person who is not in peace right now. Someone who is struggling. And then and just pick something. I mean, this is not about, what's the most important thing now? This is just a demonstration in starting to get to know this practice. it could be also yourself, like you could just imagine yourself right now in your life. Yeah? And feel. So you feel how you feel. Or you imagine how the other person feels if you do it with another person. So and then in the practice of Tonglen, we breathe in that darkness, that non-peace. So we breathe it in, and we breathe it towards the symbol of peace. And in that, to breathe it in, there is that this accepting, this allowing, this feeling. Okay, there is this claustrophobic energy there, the non-peace. This is how it feels, and you breathe it in. You let it in. And when it touches the symbol of peace, it transforms, it heals, and then from the symbol of peace, or from the feeling of peace, you breathe into the situation, you breathe peace, healing, light, kindness. And then the last step in this practice is it can be initially just a thought, and that's the thought, I'm not alone with this. There's countless mothers who worry about her child. There's countless people who are in depression. There's many other people who experience this non-peace. And then there's this, so may there be peace for all of them. Yeah? So it's like the sharing, and also there is this part of why suffering is so convincing. When you suffer, it seems to be pretty convincing, right? Somehow. Like a problem is always more convincing than a delightful day. Right? Delightful day seems to be less convincing. Whereas a bad day seems to be really convincing. And part of that, why it is so convincing, is the me. Oh, this is only happening to me. It's about me. It's my husband. It's my sickness. It's my depression. Yeah? So and then that but I'm not alone with this. We are in this together. And this is a human experience, and it's shared. It's shared with many other people at the same time. So it kind of accesses self-centeredness in the preoccupation with my problem. It makes it more the problem we all share. Yeah? The anxiety we all share as humans. So this is an important part of the Tonglen practice, to relax that prison of self-importance, as if it matters that anxiety is happening here in this being. It's happening in humanity. And then we make it so important because it seems to be so important that it has happening in this being. It would be like a leaf on a tree worrying, oh, I have this little spot. Yeah? But the tree is sick. So let's As always, the foundation of any kind of practices like that is connecting with the felt sense in your body, so that you feel the practice in the felt sense in your own energy. So let's take some time for that. Just sliding into present moment awareness. Possibly with the help of the breath. Just so into openness, open awareness, with a bit of anchoring if that is beneficial. Just befriending and noticing the inner weather. Unhooking from the inner dialogue. Letting yourself be carried by the earth. And dropping back if you get too much into the head. So, and then I invite you to connect with the symbol of peace, or the experience of peace in the center of your being. Just very gently. You could also breathe gently, lightly in the heart area. A lotus, a Buddha, the source of peace. Peace without a cause. Natural peace. Shining and radiating, vibrant, but peace. Maybe you can sink into that peace. It's indestructible, untouchable. It is, was, and will be peace. It's infinite, timeless, transpersonal peace. Maybe it's a bit difficult for some to kind of localize it, so you can also just sink into peace. And then within the space of awareness, you connect with someone or something or yourself being in non-peace. Being in resistance, struggling. If it's another person, you walk in his or her shoes. If it's the situation, if it's a situation, you recall the feelings, the energy, the heaviness. And then before we start the in-breathing, you look back to peace. Make sure that it is still there, a symbol of peace. And then with the next in-breath, just lightly, it's also not so important with the in-breath, but you can combine it a bit. You breathe the darkness in. Maybe in the form of smoke or so breathing in here means to just completely open and let it in. To take it upon you, to allow it into your being. And as soon as it touches the symbol of peace, the feeling of peace, it dissolves or it melts or it clears up. And while you are doing that, there's more and more lightness there in the person, in the situation, or in yourself. So try to find a way to make that meaningful for you. And as I said, this is just a demonstration, so just experimenting. So you breathe in darkness towards the symbol of peace, while the situation is changing. So you see the person or the situation or yourself changing. So a few more in-breaths, taking the darkness, opening to the darkness, and transforming it as soon as it touches the peace inside, melting or dissolving. And then comes the giving. So with the out breath, from peace, from the symbol of peace, from the experience of peace, you breathe out peace into the situation, towards the person, towards yourself. May there be peace in form of light or a tenderness, a love, healing, touch, or whatever is needed to give relief. With the out breath, like a cloud of love, being pushed by the out breath, or the scent of love, the vibration of love, of peace. Breathe it into the situation, into the person, towards yourself. And you feel how it is being received. So you see yourself, the person or the situation being in peace. And remember, you are not giving from the point of view of the narrative self. You're giving from the point of view of peace. May there be peace. So you'll notice how the peace is being received. And then in that person, and the persons involved or yourself, you start to see that there is also a symbol of peace in them. The same symbol, the same feeling. And there is a connection from heart to heart, from peace to peace, from lotus to lotus, from Buddha to Buddha. Like a bridge of peace. Starting to vibrate. Starting to shine. And then the last step in this practice is to widening the circle of peace into bigger and bigger circles. I'm not alone with this. And from peace, breathing peace. And starting to build bridges of peace. A network of bridges of peace with all beings. Here in this room, bridges of peace to the people who are watching this online, bridges of peace. To your ancestors, bridges of peace. Bridges of peace to the people who are violent right now, who are not in peace. And bridges of peace to the people who are in war. May there be peace. There is peace. And letting go of the symbolic level of the practice. Just resting and sinking into peace. Resting in peace. And peace without a cause. So before we return to the topic of before the breaks, just some other suggestions about this practice. If this somehow interests you, I have a playlist on SoundCloud with different guided meditations and more teachings around the practice of Tonglen. So it is one of the practices one can emphasize for a while as one's heart practice. And so there's some formal ways to do them, but it becomes actually more a way of living. So a way of living in the sense of feeling what is, opening to what is, and giving what is needed. So it is a practice which counteracts the tensing against what is. And the narrative self is constantly tensing towards what is. That's what it lives from. The narrative self says no towards the past, no towards the future, no towards what is happening in the present moment. So the practice of Tonglen is softening that. And it can be practiced anywhere and with anything and with anyone. So it is a practice of letting go of the past. So you can do practicing of Tonglen with the little girl then. So it can be a practice of healing and forgiving. Not tensing against the past or judging the past or regretting the past, but to give into the past what was needed back then. And changing the associations you have with back then. So right now you might have certain situations from the past coming up which you tense against, and that makes you suffer. And you have certain association with that memory. By the way, it hasn't been like that. If you doubt that, then do some research into memory and witness research and what we remember and how. Nothing has happened like that. Didn't happen the way we think. But we have certain association and it makes us feel a certain way. So the practice of Tonglen is a possibility to change that associations, to change the feelings connected with certain memories. And that's all what we have. I mean, the past is gone. It's non-existent. That's why we are free regarding our past. Because it's us keeping it alive. And it is us actually creating it. So it can be also done with the tensing against the future. Because also the future is a fantasy. And we're tensing into something we make up. And you have a future thing, like a meeting next week, and you tense against it, and you have certain association and feelings, and it's made up. It does not exist, except as a fantasy. So the practice of Tonglen is a practice, can be a practice of, lightening up the future. And there's some magic in it. I mean, imagine you come at home, at work, and you're tensing against the future, like, probably if I came home, my husband is completely stressed, my son is sick, or whatever. Or there's a conflict in the air, and you kind of prepare for the conflict, and you're really sure that it will be horrible evening. Yeah. So imagine how you get into the door. Yeah, so if through the practice of Tonglen you change the tensing, and you bring into images of peace, feelings of peace, it makes sense that might have a big impact on how the evening turns out. Sometimes you might wonder, how can I change the feelings of my family by changing the feelings in me? Or how can I change the claustrophobic energy of a team meeting by changing the feelings in me? And then you can do it obviously in a situation, when you are in a claustrophobic situation, in a situation of non-peace. So you are in the team meeting, and when you are a bit familiar with this process, then you don't do the in breath, out breath, visualization. So it becomes like non-symbolic. It's just the way of being in the situation. Yeah. Like, for example, when I teach, I do that very often. Yeah, that I breathe in the tiredness or the restlessness I perceive in the room, and I breathe out what is needed. And there's a lot of familiarity in this being with this practice, so I don't need to remember to do it. It's just something which appears. It's okay. So then I see, wow, yeah, this is actually Tonglen. Yeah. So if you work with people, if you touch people in your work, if you talk with people, there's always that possibility, either in the situation, or as preparation for the situation, or as a kind of further service you can offer to the people you are connected with. If you practice with yourself, there is the option of kind of stepping out. we have the capacity, for example, right now, like I can now step out of this being and look at this being right now in this moment and take away or breathe in the tension in this being, and then breathe from there somewhere, or from there to breathe in and to breathe out peace into that being. But I can also kind of internalize it, like do it within my world. So, like if I feel like a tensing in me, then I can, you can find your way in it. It takes some time of playing to do it in a way it makes sense. So it's like, so connecting with the symbol of peace, and then kind of breathing it towards that, allowing it, softening the tensing against it, and then from the image of peace in my heart to breathe out what is needed. Yeah.
So when you say to breathe out what's needed, is it then is that the thought of breathe out what is needed, or is it sometimes it's peace, sometimes or is it also I will just breathe out what is needed and then it will transform into what's needed,
I mean, there's no rule. So I breathe out what is needed. I think for me it makes more sense to feel a quality or put it into words, like may you be happy, but so it's also feeling it, like light, love, but it could be also. So what I do, or what happens sometimes in my teaching, I breathe out angels, and I feel like that, you all have your personal angels, and they appear, and they do their stuff, and I just, I'm off the hook. Yeah. So, or if I would do that with the little boy back then, I would send him a dog or a Superman. Yeah, so it has. I think it has to do with. It could be a smell, the scent. Scent the scent of, I don't know what a scent which you connect with peace. So you send a scent into the situation, the scent of roses, whatever makes sense. Light, Buddhas, you send Buddhas out. With each out breath, you just send out a ray of Taras or Buddhas or Dalai Lamas. So that's the symbolic level of that practice. Has all the room for creativity. Then, and it's not like that you need to do it like okay, now I do half an hour Tonglen. So once you have kind of find your style of it, it becomes quite natural and quick. Yeah, so it's just, so that's it. So is it. So And as you notice in this practice, I didn't alternate between the in and out breath. So we stayed a bit with the in breath, like, and this is not a breathing exercise or like a focus on the breathing. So take it light with the in and out breath. So it's only if it's helpful, and otherwise it can get quite complicated. And the kind of the focus of this practice can it's like you can't have the whole thing at the same time. Yeah, so there's a bit of so there's the situation, the person, and then maybe the symbol of peace within you disappears into peripheral awareness, and then maybe you focus on this, or then you focus more on of the sense in your body. So it's so you kind of gently shift where your emphasis is placed. And it's like if you watch news, if you see someone on the street, if you sit in the train and you notice that someone is struggling, it's something, and it's also in joyful situations. So in joyful situation, it is breathing out the joy. So you share the joy. So with the in breath, you sink into the joy. I forgot that to say when I talked about revealing peace without a cause, the practice of sinking in, pausing and sinking in. Yeah. So here, in connecting the practice of Tonglen with a joyful moment, then sinking into the joy, into the beauty, into the peace you experience in this moment, and then with the out breath, sharing. May everyone experience this joy. May everyone experience peace. So it's not only a practice for the difficult moments in life, but also a practice for the beautiful moments in life. And it's the same. It's counteracting the habit of the narrative self to claim the good stuff for itself. In the same way, the narrative self claims the painful stuff for itself. So it's counteracting that habit. Like a kind of good side effect of this practice of Tonglen is you become more aware of the grasping habits of the narrative self. Because there will be always a bit of struggle in the if you really do it. Because something in you will, that's the most stupid thing to do. Why would you open to the pain of another person? It's not your pain. Why? No? It's like, be professional. Have your professional facade. Don't get involved into the feelings of the other person. That's too much. It will eat you up. Some people are trained like that. And this is very different. This is not only feeling the feelings of the other person, but taking it into you, making the pain of another person your pain. And in reality, it is your pain. It is a description of how it is. in this, of course, the first step is very important. Yeah, the connection with that which can and is already in connection with all the pain in the world, and it is not destroyed, and it is not too much. It is too much for the narrative self, of course. So it is also a practice of getting to know that part, which is tensing, which creates the illusion of separation. You already feel the pain in the world. It's not that, oh, now I let it in. It's already here. It's there. It's an illusion that we can separate ourselves through some professional attitude from the pain around us. It's an illusion. It doesn't work. This is the only chance we have to open our heart to what is. Not the imagined heart of the narrative self, but the real heart. And that already has happened. The real heart is already infinite open. Everything already is infinitely loved. Yeah, so let's have just a short break. We have an hour left, but just 5-10 minutes break, and then if there's some more questions around what we talked about before the break, daily practice and things, so we have some time for that.